everybody. I'm Steph.
And I'm Mariana. And welcome to Coffee and Anime.
Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Hey, to a very late episode 3 of Coffee and Anime.
I will apologize. The lateness of episode 3 is completely my fault because April is a very busy month for me. A lot of birthdays, a lot of things going on, a lot of momming. So
yeah. And it was partly my fault too, because the first time we did this, I didn't hit record. So it was one of those things too. So we're all so we did the whole episode without actually recording. So it was so we had double the trouble on this one. So it was loads of fun. But we're back.
We really loved it.
Yes, and we got a little extra time with this one, it needed a little extra time. So that's part of the love of this. Honey and Clover is a classic anime, shoujo, josei, whatever you want to call it, either one. Yeah, and it's just one of those really, I don't know if it's really uplifting, but it's real. It's a real anime about real topics. So that's my.
Ooh. I definitely agree. This is one of those, like, I feel like sometimes joseis get a little Danielle Steele.
Yeah.
Makes any sense? Like, it's realistic, but also just not,
Yeah.
So I feel like this was a little more like reality, the reality of like people like of love and, what it is when love actually doesn't work, or when it does work, or when love changes, or when you have to like stop and say, why do I love this person? Like, just, or, you're giving up one love for family, and what is love? I think that's what this real theme of the show is what is love.
Or how it's different for every person. So it's kind of really interesting that we have, and all the characters are likable. They're all likable in their own ways and how they interact with each other, and they're all respectful of each other to a point, but it's like how each of them likes, loves, or even just tolerates each other is unique to this cast. Yes. So yeah. So we can kind of go into the main character, which is Hagu Hanamoto, I think the last name.
Yeah.
First name? Yeah. So, and just kind of like, it's really her story, but it's also kind of everybody's story, which is kind of nice. So
it is really her story, but I feel it's her story told through
Yuta.
Yes. Her story told, like, it's, to me, it's like he's writing a diary. Because especially in the second season, he's like, he talks about being unaware of everything else that was going on because he was so fixated on his relationship with her and what it was or wasn't.
And it's interesting that she came from a place of like not knowing anybody or anything beyond her relatives to this whole new world of antics and craziness. And so it's kind of it's really his storytelling about her story. So it's kind of like a perspective on both things, and it's really well done on both ends. So
it is. I think Sensei did a very, very good job on it.
I just kind of collaged a bunch of her cute stuff, so I tried to make it work.
I wanted to make note that I actually appreciated in the second season from what, because I had a friend who is literally Hagu's size. Like, she's probably like 4 something. She's super tiny. And yes, she is Asian. She's of Asian descent. She's half. Yeah, she's half. But she was super tiny. And like Hagu during the second season, because by the second season, it's been like 4 years. So she's 22-ish, 23. There's a part where they're looking at Yuta's final piece. And she looks very grown up and mature. And I find that endearing, but also that's very realistic from my perspective, because my friend, for the longest time, I mean, no matter what she did, she looked like a kid. You know what I mean? I mean, even when we turned 30 and we were both pregnant, people like thought she was like a teen mom. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, you know, like she did, I would say around 21, 22, start to dress a lot more mature. She changed the way she was doing her hair, her makeup,
Mhm.
everything to give her that little boost of maturity. And you can
Mhm.
see that with Hagu. And I think that also foreshadowed the mature decision that she was going to have to face and make at the end.
Yeah.
You know, it was like she was ready to make that decision. She wasn't like, as these pictures, you know, she wasn't shy, you know, sweet, overwhelmed Hagu anymore. She was, you know, she's like this mature person who's like prepared for what's to come.
Yeah. And that was a nice change too for like I think for all of them. I think they all went through quite a bit of character. No, not all of them. Maybe it was just Yuta and her actually growing up to the point where they were more adult looking. But it's
Yeah.
just yeah, and I think it's also kind of like a symbolism thing for like the animated show of like to show her growth from like being trapped in a world where she couldn't even be a happy child either. I mean, she wanted to play with all the doll houses and make all the kitchen sets and everything else too.
Yes.
But also like she was there to go to college and find out what she wants to do with her life and move forward. And there was somebody there supporting her for that entire journey, telling her that she could do whatever she wanted as long as she was happy, which is part of the whole thing. But
Yeah.
besides that, I mean, this is just like the mad dog, the poodle that loves her but looks ridiculously awful, and everybody else was like one of my favorite things. Just the way she looked, like the middle one is from her sculpting and everything, because her artistic faces were very mature and it showed her age, like what she was at for that as well. But just some antics. I couldn't get the leaf to come all the way through, so him taking pictures of her to make her look like mystical animals and fairies and stuff was quite entertaining.
Like, that is like, I feel like the first season is literally like pure entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's literally like Shinobu like picking on her.
It's him picking on everybody. The fact that I went through like some of the best moments of the show is literally him getting either beat up by a Yumi or basically making fun of Yuta and Hagu most of the time. So it's pretty
And
entertaining.
Takumi like constantly like yelling at him and just
Mm-hmm.
like but I like I love I really did enjoy their like dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah.
So it's an oddball pairing of five random people. They're not really random at this point in time, but it's
Yeah.
like their personalities shouldn't have
The
meshed
fact
as well as they did. Yeah. And then we can kind of get to Yuta Takamoto. I think I believe is the last name. I have like they have them pulled up, but we'll see how this goes as we move along. I find him to be my favorite. He's got to be my favorite. I know there's a lot of really great characters, but I really, really enjoyed having even like a softer male lead, but he was very, what is the word? Profound. He knew what was going on the entire time. He accepted the changes. He kind of like looked at everybody else's happiness before his own and then still made sure that he had time to grow and go on his own adventure too. So,
yeah. The going to the northern tip of Japan, the riding his bike thing.
yeah.
I feel like that was a symbol of him accepting that this was the end, you know?
Mhm.
Very accepting that this is the end. This is where things are. You know, he needed to like face things because he couldn't go any further.
Yeah.
You know, and then he comes back and he confesses to Hagu and um I will say her giving him no answer
Mhm.
bugged me a lot. Like she just avoided him. Like I and he just was there, he just accepted it, which is fine.
Mhm.
But at the same time, inner me was going, dude, you have to tell him something. You can't just like meh, nice morning.
I think that's the difference between the two characters too is that she doesn't take that responsibility sometimes towards them. Like she's taking care of all the other characters kind of, even Ayumi when she takes care of her with her art and takes her to school and kind of introduces her to everything. Like it's kind of funny how you can see her slowly grow up and then be more adult. But like at some points that you see those little tiny pieces of like just her little kind of innocence in a way that she
Yes.
didn't think that she might have needed to say something because she might have said, well, this is, I don't have anything to say because I don't feel that way. Maybe. Which just sucks for
Right.
him.
I know. It's like out of the whole show.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I would have appreciated, and I have not read the manga, but I would have appreciated that
Yeah.
they had him like, reminiscing on it, but like happy, like with like children and a wife or something, some kind of like, romantic happy ending. He seems happy in the end.
Yeah.
Like he's looking on this whole situation as a fond memory, not a bitter one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's grateful for it. It helped him grow. But yeah, it's like everybody couples up, everybody, and then he's like the odd man out, and I'm like, wait, not fair. He's so sweet.
I know, but it's like I think there was bound to be somebody who was an odd man out because they only had the two girls and they have basically three boys, and then you have the two side, another boy, another girl. So it was eventually somebody was going to be kind of left to the ropes. But
Yeah.
yeah. And we just kind of go through. He had the most moments. I had to like pick some really good ones, but it was just like he was there for a good majority of the things. But even like when they forgot it was his birthday, they were all gathered together and they were just like, he's like, oh, it's my birthday. That's why you're all here to help me like celebrate. And
And
then
they're like,
I
wait,
think,
what?
yeah, I almost feel like he's there to like narrate the journey for all of them. So it's enjoyable in that respect for walking through his shoes, trying to get to know all these characters. But
Yeah. And it's like his perspective seems unclouded as well.
mhm.
Like in kind of for it to be coming from his perspective, it doesn't seem biased to a point where you don't really, if you didn't hear or know that he was a narrator, you wouldn't see that it's his story that he's telling.
Mhm.
You wouldn't know that it was him telling the story. That's what I meant to say, I think.
It's just yeah. There's just too much going on for this poor kid. So I think he is in every episode. I believe like almost for most of them too. So like he's pretty much he feels like the main lead and then you slowly realize that he is not. So it's just like it happens to be
Just the
not it's a
storyteller.
bittersweet ending. Yeah, he's just there to help tell the story more than participate almost, which is sad.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get speaking of tragic a little bit, so we're gonna go to Yumi too. Um
I love all the characters, but her character frustrated the daylights out of me.
mhm.
She really did. Like, and I understand that it's part of the story, and it kind of needs to,
Yeah.
she needed that growth. But I also like watching it, and I'm like, I wonder if dating and stuff, because dating's different everywhere. So I looked at it and I was kind of like, I wonder if that's the difference in dating and liking someone in Japan versus like here.
Mhm.
But I don't see, because we're women in the West are known to be a little more independent. Have been for a few decades. So I looked at her wanting to be like miserable and in love with him, even though he was in love with somebody else.
Mhm.
Very clearly, she was very well aware. But like, there was part of me that was like, can you just run away to Rome or something, and
Yeah.
and come back like refreshed and like just over him in a different perspective? I mean, she does get over him, sort of, but
I think it's just a lot like Yuta too. Like they are very it's almost like they're steadfast. Like they're just like they're there to like be supporting for these other two kind of like more passionate characters almost.
Mm.
And Takumi's like I don't want to say that he's like an a-hole, but he is a little bit like about things. And yeah. So it's just kind of one of those things, but like he should have made it clear too. The two of them were basically kind of stuck in this weird will they, won't they for like a while. And so Ayumi should have like either stuck her foot down or not. And she kind of did. They had their moments, but it's like it never was really like anything too all out there. They both just knew how each other felt and they just didn't want to do anything about it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And then I was glad when Neoyama was introduced, because he's the one that called Takumi out. Like nobody was calling him out the way he did. It was like we just have her there as like a backup. So if things really don't like, so if Rika looks at him and says, "Nah, it's not happening," he knows she'll always be there. So
it's just crazy.
It was you know, it was true. It was right. That's kind of how he viewed her, because especially the, you know, this crying scene where he, you know, she's saying I love you and she's crying and he's like I know, and it's like that's hey Han Solo.
Yeah. at least Han Solo knew and reciprocated, so we're gonna go there. But I want to like put a little bit of like spotlight on this like leg up like crazy come down like thing that she does to these guys, like oh my god, and in a skirt. What a brave person. Like it's just, like she's so, they call her the Iron Lady, like she's so cool, and yet she's so like genuinely soft when it comes to this other guy. So it's kind of it's a good little
when it comes to her heart, you know, I mean, she put all her love into this one person. So I understand her not wanting to just break it off. I really do. I just like, you know, I guess you could say the Western independent woman in me is like, you don't need him. You can move on. I just wanted her to go like, ah.
Yeah. I think part of her saw him not being attached to anybody. Like I think if he actually was like, I'm going to date this person, she probably would have been easier to get rid of her feelings. But he was so known as a womanizer and everything else that she was just like, I will have to catch him and make him mine, basically.
Yeah.
So, he needs a home. Speaking that, we'll get to him then.
Look at speak of the devil.
Yeah. God. And it's funny that the glasses individual characters in anime can go from like 0 to 60. They're like really smart, well-intentioned, like very professional, like line things up, or they're like the womanizing, like awful scum of the earth, basically, sometimes.
Like, what is it? There's a character in Natsume's Book of Friends, and it's like he puts on his glasses to like hide his identity, but at the same time, it's like he's such a terrible like flirt, so he takes his glasses off to like, hey. I did not feel sorry for him with the whole Rika thing, because what, it had been like a year or 2 years since her husband had died.
Yeah.
Like to me, it seemed like, I mean, granted, Rika did kind of, in her own way, lead him on for a long time. But at the same time, he pursued and he pushed, knowing the situation. I just feel like it's like, yeah, you loved it. I feel like it was more he wanted to possess her than actually love her.
I think he talks about that too, because he doesn't realize what he's doing. Because then he realizes he's stalking. Like he finally, like that one point where he's like, maybe I am stalking her, because he just assumed he was just being kind of like there. And then he's like, it's slowly dawning on him. And then like, oh, this behavior is not good, but I'm not going to stop it because, like, what else am I going to do for this? Like, I want this so much.
Oh my god, when he put the alarm on her purse in the hotel room, I was like, bro, that's a no-no. Don't do that. Like, what are you doing? And I kind of get it because she literally was going to Spain to do the project and then to give up.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. And I get wanting to like save the person you love from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But just how he went about doing it, I was like, no. that's a line. Like, and it was like so loud. And I was just like, wait.
But it's very not him either, because he's so like coordinated and everything. If anything, that would have been like a Shinobi thing. Like, just like where he would have been like, I'm gonna stick loud fireworks in your purse and let them go off because I don't know how to express myself.
Like, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then I also want to know, I mean, is it implied because they were obviously they had slept together that night. So for me, I'm like, okay, the conversation they had afterwards, I'm like, wait a minute. So is this not the first time that happened between the two of them? And she was like, almost like using him, you know, just to fulfill like some sort of, I guess, loneliness or something. Like I said, I do feel bad for him, but at the same time, I'm like, it's for me, I still question whether or not like his is like a genuine like I love this person, or it's or this just she was like an unattainable thing to like possess almost.
Because I think they mentioned that she was like comparatively gorgeous, regardless, right? Like even with that, and then the scarring and everything was just kind of hidden for that most part. So I mean, and he's used to dating around before he got to her. I assume that's what the trend was before he got to her in the first place.
Yeah.
And he was kind of tired of it. So then there's this gorgeous, unattainable, very interesting person to him. And I can see that as being in his age group was like, wow, this is awesome. Then he has that moment where they are together and sleep together. And then he's like, okay, this is what I want no matter what. And then she's like, this is bad. So it kind of escalates from that point. I think even Shuji tells her, she's like, you probably should choose, either tell him no or go like say yes. You need to figure out what you want. So
yes.
Yeah.
It's like their story to me, you know, because even when he moved to Spain, they were in two. I couldn't make it clear. Were they in two different apartments, or they were in the same apartment, but two different? Oh yeah, in the same apartment, two different bedrooms, and both bedrooms had locks on them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you already slept with him.
Yep.
Like, why do you need a lock on your bedroom? The door's already been open, honey. That's pointless.
It's just, I don't know.
Am I wrong? Like,
no, because like, and it's not like if she invites him too, it's like, why even worry at this point in time? You're already escalating this way past where you need to be, but it's okay. Yeah, but I did feel bad for her because she like needed somebody, but he was needing somebody too in a different manner. So it's kind of like,
yeah,
that wasn't a good pairing in that regard. So
no, I understood why. Well, we'll get to that later.
Yeah. We're going to move on to the highlight of the whole show. Little ray of sunshine. Again, like this whole scene, they're all working hard and then he's just like watching, hanging out.
Right.
It's just, I have to get to his other like little collage images because he was the most fun too. This one with the muffin where he just comes out of nowhere.
She's like, gross. Am I disgusting? Well, yeah. I love that part. It made me laugh so hard. It was I liked that scene because it was kind of like the last like super lighthearted scene. Then after that, everything gets so super serious.
It's kind of like they spent a few years being friends and being like just caring about each other, but they never really like dealt with what they were that meant. And so then it just turned into a whole season of we got to take care of our own problems and figure out what's going on and who's going to be basically with who if they even are. So
Yeah.
you have all this stuff happening. His character, and we had chatted about this before, is like the most he was supposed to be there, I thought, for comedic relief. And as you slowly get to know him as he goes along, you realize that he probably has the most stuff to be complaining about and trying to get through his life and try to figure it out. And it's just like, it's crazy to me to have somebody with that genuinely of a childlike innocence, speaking of, and like going around to have that much baggage just happening. It's ridiculous.
like like that part, I feel like when I first watched this, I feel like I didn't get to that part because when I watched it, I was like, oh wait, did I skip this episode? And then I'm trying to think back and I'm like, I don't know, like, did I skip the episode or did YouTube skip the episode or was it in too many parts and I just didn't watch
Yeah.
it? That's how you used to watch it, right? It's like,
Yeah. Well,
60
you want to get through it. Yeah. So it's like one of those things. And especially for this kind of show where it's kind of like lighthearted and these episodes seem to like flow a little bit more like they're at ease. You're kind of just like going with everything and doing your thing. At certain episodes, you're like, there's nothing going to happen this one. It's just going to be more of the lighthearted cake eating craziness. And then you miss something. So it's kind of like you have to stay with the ride the whole time.
Yes. But his story is definitely like him and like that's I feel like him and Hagu story wise complemented each other the most.
I feel like their growth is the same. I don't know if they complement each other romantically. I think they just kind of it's like having two shooting stars hit each other. Like they're both cool and they both make like a bright thing, but they don't really there's no substance there underneath the relationship too much. Like if someone's going to take care of somebody or like actually like involve them in their life, I think Yuta would have been the choice for that. But I think Shinobu's just basically he's a free spirit.
Very, very free spirit. But I mean I feel like, for a minute there's something there. They're both attracted to each other. There's definitely something there. But I like when they go out on their date and she comes back to Shuji and she's crying about how she didn't have a good time. That kind of like I was like, oh no, like. But then it him being such a free spirit and her being somebody who was just coming out of her shell, it actually kind of made sense because he doesn't know how to be considerate of others.
No.
When you learn about his dad's backstory, his dad kind of like was the same way, was a really great and fun person, but kind of like in his own head all the time. It's like, it's curry night. I'm going home early. Don't forget your project. Peace out.
Oh my gosh. No, and I just think that when it came down to this point in time, in the second season, he was much more, at least had some time to deal with other people. But like when we meet him, I don't think he actually even like really had like a friendship with anybody at that point in time. Like Takumi was like his only person that he really interacted with until he met Yuta and Hagu. Then he finally got some actual like substance in his life for like people. So
well, I mean, and I think that is probably like just like you realize why, because him and his brother. Well, I feel like he's there to try to keep his brother from going too far with the whole revenge thing and taking the company and everything like that. Like that literally hit me like hard because I was like, wait a minute, and I'm like, didn't realize that was his brother. The whole time that was like picking him up and making him go work like crazy, and then didn't realize that. The whole backstory, is just, how could I put it? Unexpected. Like I first thought he was just like from some famous rich family when they're talking about his dad, and then it's lo and behold, his dad's best friend like screwed him over, and there's just all Like you said, it's his story is probably the most convoluted.
Yeah.
So much. Should have his own spinoff.
So it made sense for the obsession with money and everything else, and how he was like, how many years was he in college too? I can't even remember. I think he was like
He was
on
like, I think when it first started, was he in like his 7th year?
something
Like
insane.
that, like he's not even, because I don't know about your college, but mine, we had, especially in the fashion program, we had people we called super seniors.
Mm-hmm.
And those are people that were there for like, 5 or 6 years, but that's only because the fashion program was so small.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I won't get into details, but my college is stupid. Um, but there were times where you just couldn't get into your classes, but you needed those classes. You needed class A to get into class B. So you
Mm-hmm.
just go take another stupid class just to take the class, kind of thing. Um, but like the longest I ever met anybody that had like been in the college for the same program was like 6 years. There's people that were there longer. I went to school for like 12 years, but still, like,
Yeah, it's just, but I was just thinking in Japan, like in an anime, like I think 7 years. I haven't heard of anybody being in college a long time. Usually it's like an extra year they have to take, or they take a year off and they come back. But 7 years, I was laughing like, and they remind him all the time, you still have to do your project 7 years. They just go, it's just like I felt bad for him for that regard too.
the teacher that's like, no, you will finish your final project.
Yeah,
You're going to graduate before I retire. Like,
yeah.
he's old and frail.
Yeah. They're just trying so hard with it. And little do they know that he has all this stuff going on, and that's the least of his concerns for everything happening.
Right? I mean, it's funny to me because there's a part of me that's like, why was he in college? Like literally about to take over a multi-million-dollar company. I mean, I get it, like you need the experience and everything, but it was almost like he just went for the distraction.
I think it was his escape. I really do. That's why he acted out. Maybe that he was going all crazy. Like the things that he was doing were not necessary for any kind of end goal. Let's put it that way. When he's
The feet and the cigarette.
And didn't Shuji keep it? He's like, I want that foot thing. How much do you want for this? Just like he was like, give this to me. Like, why are you? Oh my goodness. I think he's next. No, this is just the end credit thing. You like talk about the 5 of them, but I think Shuji's next for all of this.
Terrible. I find his story to kind of be the most tragic because it doesn't flat out say that he was in love with Harada, but he mentions loving Harada a lot. Like it's like I loved Harada. That comes up a couple of times, and it's like, so not only did you lose the person that you loved to somebody else, but then also that person turned around and died.
Mm-hmm. And then he was stuck taking care of the person that he had to lose that person to.
Right. Like, I mean, but I see why that was necessary.
Yeah.
That was not a good relationship for either of them.
Mm-mm.
It was not healthy.
It's funny in his regard because I see a lot of Yuta in him for the fact that they both have that kind of basically nothing supporting them until they got to themselves and made that. And there's key people in their lives that they kind of just decided they were going to like and like put their all into that don't reciprocate back. And they just keep going and keep going and keep going. But luckily for Yuta, he found somebody basically that he's going to take care of and that they want to be taken care of. And then he'll end up with for the rest of his life. So it's just kind of one of those things. But I feel
you mean
him and Yuta are very similar, and I don't know. There's a lot of choices there for both of them.
Yeah, I find it like, I mean, just so endearing.
Mm-hmm.
Like his being.
He's
And
definitely, I thought he was a side character for the first few episodes. Like, I was thinking, okay, he's just the teacher. He's there to help them grow. And then
right,
he kind of molds along with the story very well. Like, he's not overbearing, but he's definitely interwoven into anything. And he kind of, I don't know, he like helps teach even Takumi. Like, he pulls him to a side and talks to him about Rika. Like, he helps them with all their kind of like little things that are happening throughout the whole thing, and still gets to grow himself. So,
right. And like the fact that he found a way. I mean, it's he went from Harada and Rika being the priority in his
mhm.
world to making Hagu the priority, and for him to be able to be there for her
Mhm.
the way he is, because I mean, he's kind of, I mean, her and Yuta have a talk about how she needs to tell him how she really feels, and she's like, I can't do that to him because I know that he would just give up everything for me, because he kind of already, the moment where he's taking her hand, he kind of already did.
Yeah.
Well, he pulled her out of that dark, like dreary,
Mhm.
I mean, that world of hers is that world was so dark. So I actually found it very odd that she was like, okay, I'm going to go back home now. What? What? Why? Why would you go back there? You know?
I don't know. It's like a adult kind of situation altogether, but it's just like, and when he went off on his like little teaching thing to go be him by himself, he was gonna take her with him, and she's like, "No, I'll stay here." And just like the fact that both of them, like she was reading stuff off like he was dead, and he was like praising posters like he missed her, like she was long lost and dead. The two of them kind of like, I think Harada brought Rika back like he would a stray animal. I feel like that's what he did with poor Haku too. It's like, oh, I adore you more than anything in the world. I'm going to take care of you. Like it's like something that he found. Now he's got
Right?
like
Right?
full compass that he gets it differently than like Takumi with Rika. Like he found her too, but he definitely was thinking about himself and not about the other person.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but they were very sweet. Speaking of Rika, I think she's our last character to kind of discuss. Which I almost felt like, I feel like if there was going to be somebody who was kind of made out to be kind of a villain basically in this show, she
Mm,
kind of took that spot, which is unfortunate for how much she's been through. So,
it is, but at the same time, it's like, you know, granted, Takumi's actions were not appropriate. Stick with that.
no.
When he did the thing, not appropriate. But the fact that she was willing to do to Takumi, or Takumi, sorry, Takumi, what happened to her when Harada, died in an accident,
Mhm.
I just, she is, she's selfish, for lack of better words. She really is,
Mhm.
and I get it. I don't know what I would do if Drew, like, suddenly passed. Like, that would be like, he's my other half. He's my best friend. Like, I would, be absolutely devastated. But for her to, take that next step and like almost manipulate somebody else's feelings for her own convenience,
Yeah.
you know,
She was doing the same thing that he was doing to Ayumi. Was basically having somebody there to that she knew cared but didn't like, and that she's just going to use them for whenever she felt comfortable with it. And I think Shuji does call her on it a couple times, I think too, because he's
yeah,
basically like, yeah, you need to
doing
figure
that.
this out. It's not fair to anybody. So I think that's also a lot like Ayumi, Shuji, and Yuta, I think were pretty much like the steadfast, like very true to their emotions and who they liked, where everybody else was kind of like a wild card at one point in time, like
Yeah.
kind of all over the place.
Very hard on the sleeve people. Like, there
Mm-hmm.
was no question about like how they felt. you know, they had you know, the one goal
Yeah.
the whole time. So, but for her, it's like, I mean, even when like there's scenes where she, you know, Takumi is talking and she sees Harada in him.
Yeah.
What am I thinking of? Oh, the hiccup thing when she was hiccuping and he gives her the sugar water. That scene. And literally like just like she like it like pans them like together, like, you know, kind of phases them in and out thing. And I you know, I feel out of all the adults, she was probably like the least adult.
Yeah. I feel like she went backwards in her because like I think Harada saved her and like they did their like the thing, they got married, they were like she was going to be the super successful thing, and then she kind of just stopped herself at that point and decided that she's just going to go back to before Harada was there, and so that kind of put her in that mode, and I'm wondering if this is how she would have been if he wasn't around.
I wonder that too. You know, I wonder how she would have been if, you know, Shuji had have like stuck around too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would she have tortured herself, or would he been in, or would he have been the comfort enough there for her to forgive herself? You know, because I mean, he talks about how she stopped eating and stuff, and she was trying to like follow Harada,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then, you know, he admits that he very selfishly was just like, no, you can't do that. Like, you'll never see him again if you do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Because
but
he was grasping onto her as a last bit to him too.
yeah, yeah, that whole that triangle is just tragic, no matter how you look at it. It's just like there's nothing but heartbreak there. Um, so I mean, I feel like it's like I feel for her character, but at the same time, I'm like, you really should have stepped to the side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she really should have put her. You know, I mean, and it would have changed the whole story, of course. But like, part of me was like, she needed to quietly disappear and let Takumi grow.
Yeah.
I feel like his character didn't really grow.
Besides that, his realization that he was a stalker. I think that was about the growth moment for him.
Right?
Yeah. He's like, oh man, okay, yeah. Yeah, I think she stuck him in the same thing as her. They're basically like, oh, we're just gonna stay the same, and everybody else is gonna kind of maneuver around us, basically, until something happens where it's gonna one of us is gonna give. It's almost like they were like in a staring contest and see who was gonna break first. So,
Yes. Yes.
mhm. So overall, amazing series.
I do love it.
Mhm.
You have to be in the mood.
Definitely. It's definitely like and it's not really I don't say it's an evening watching thing. You have to be awake for it a little bit too because the music's so soft and it's like romanticized and it's one of those things that like except for like the intro songs, they were odd. I will tell you that.
The intro songs are so like, especially the second season
Yeah.
where it's like the sculpture like keeps changing from like different like mediums
Mhm.
and things. The first season intro, I don't get that at all. That was just so weird.
The one with all the food. It's just
Food,
like
and then the undies with the sauce.
mhm.
I was like, whoa! I was like, that's too far. I'm like, I don't get it. But yeah,
I think it's kind of just like the show's like vibe too. It's like a lot of stuff doesn't make sense sometimes. It's like okay, let's throw some really adult themes for the people in between them eating Yule cakes as fast as they can before someone gets them. It's just
right.
kind of like it's very and the characters are great too. Like they're all well rounded and well thought out and their interactions together. I mean, this whole show is amazing. I just don't know if it'd be one of those things that I could watch and then turn it back on and watch it again.
Yeah, no, this is definitely one of those where, you know, as soon as the manga apocalypse is over, right? Um, I will go looking for the manga again. It's definitely
Mhm.
something that I want to have in my collection. but I don't think I will watch it again for at least a
Mm-hmm.
couple of years. Like it's going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to watch this again
Mm-hmm.
because I do feel that we're only getting snippets of the story because of when it was written. You know, you didn't. This is especially because season 2 is literally 12 episodes, 10
Mm-hmm.
episodes. It's
12,
not
I
that
think.
many. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that many episodes. So it's you don't know what's been cut out or and I feel like with manga sometimes there's that little thing that like they cut out of the anime and you're just like, well, wait a minute, where'd that come from?
Yeah. Or they add something and you're like, well, that didn't fit quite right, but it'll work, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
and you just kind of accept it. So yeah,
mm-hmm.
definitely like a manga that I want to own and I want to read, but it'll be a while before I like rewatch this
Mm-hmm.
because just the mood of it.
I will tell you, like, I watched it dubbed for most of it because that way I can fold laundry and still listen to it and everything else. I could mom and
Yeah,
watch at the same time. And it's not bad. Like even the older voices, like it's actually easy to listen to. It doesn't hurt my ears or anything. The voices in Japanese like are the same too. Either way, it actually worked pretty well. So I was pretty
yeah,
surprised.
yeah. I mean, we were talking about this earlier because I watched the second season in dub so I can
Hmm.
mom. And there was somebody that was talking about how in the early 2000s dubs would take like a year to come out afterwards, and I think them taking so long to come out after like a sub is because production and all that other things, but since it took so long there was already an established feel
Hmm.
for the characters, so the artists were appropriately casted. I think that's, and no dub artist is bad now. None of
No.
the dub artists are bad. They're all really great, amazing artists. I just think sometimes that the it's the wrong voice actor for the character.
Hmm.
They don't you hear that character, it's kind of like with Bleach. Bleach, I could listen to Japanese and I could listen to English, but there's not a huge, I could say, difference in how characters are presenting themselves, how voice actors are working with it. But again,
Hmm.
that's one of those ones where like the dub came out like the dub came out when the DVD came out.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So
I know also like Fairy Tale's a good example too. The English and the Japanese both kind of just like mesh well together.
yeah,
But like, yeah, I think you're right too. Like a lot of stuff gets rushed nowadays because we want everything so fast. Like it's just like
yes,
we can't wait for anything anymore. It has to be tomorrow. So I feel like that's kind of ruined the quality of people's expressions and not able to like really fully understand what they're trying to come across like. So.
yeah, understanding the characters, feeling for the story, having
Mhm.
that real like connection.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, Amazon Life has like killed it. One day shipping.
Everything's prime shipping, yeah. I think for these, I think we both picked the same coffee, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is going to transition, so it's going to be like one of those weird things that I don't ask me how I did that. So um and I think cuz the latte is just it's warm and fuzzy basically. It's nice classic drink that makes you feel good after you're done watching it. Even though there was a lot of crazy like not crazy, but tragic stuff. You feel like all the characters got where they needed to be by the end.
Yes. I feel like, this is one of those, like I said, it's not one that I will revisit constantly.
No.
Like it's not a lovely complex. I could watch that right now and we literally just watched it. Like I could watch them again. Easy. And binge it.
Yep.
This takes like, there's so much raw emotion in it that you almost have to take a break.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I love it. It's just good. It's just good. It's good storytelling.
Mhm. It's good character development too. Like usually you'll get like a good story, and sometimes you'll have some side characters that don't make any sense. Everybody made sense, and it was well put together. Intro songs were a little off, but that's okay.
Right.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye.